Great. That ritual worked? That's a surprise. Well, I suppose greetings are in order. Hello! Who are you? It would seem two-way communication is an impossibility. Perhaps tea? Oh, wait. No, that doesn't work either. You're not actually physically here. Well, the ritual stated that it was voluntary. At least I hope so. So I'm guessing you are here in search of knowledge. Well, I'm the right person to teach you. Let's see. Well, according to this document, the place you're from is very similar to our own, which is most convenient. So as I'm sure you can imagine, we have dragons and demons and unlike your own, here we have dragons and demons and all sorts of interesting creatures. For example, myself. I am a vampire, or was not so long ago. And speaking of myself, I suppose you shall learn what colors the perspective in which you shall learn about this wonderful world of our own. I shall be your guide, and as such, my very own perspective will color how you see everything that I tell you about in this world. As such, allow me to begin by telling my story. A few years back, me and my vampire brethren in our own little community were afflicted by a strange illness that caused us to slowly fade from the physical world and decay into some sort of spiritual energy. Since then, I have been exploring the wonderful world that we live in and gathered even more knowledge than I did prior to my unfortunate circumstance. I have recently coalesced my energy into some sort of physical being, for lack of a better term, and as such, using the magic of an old forgotten clan, which we can talk about later, I have gotten to this point in which I can finally communicate with some individuals, yourselves included. But that's enough about me. Allow me to introduce you to the wonderful planet we call home, known as Cray. Well, here you are a frail spirit, even more so than me. However, as you are from Earth, you are able to impact our world in a myriad of subtle ways. Legend has it, there was once a great war in which the Vandals of Earth greatly impacted our world in many ways, including... well, we can get to those stories later. Especially because most of those details, unfortunately, are gone. About 3,000 years ago, our world fell into, shall we call it what it is, a godless era. Prior to that, we were guided by the once powerful being known as Messiah, a great Genesis being that brought forth life, light, and connection between all of us, and supposedly some very strong connections with your very own world. Now, while she is no longer here, her sacrifice is very much remembered, including a certain set of stories that she left behind, known as the epithet of Messiah. But enough about the past. Today we are in the present. Recently, relatively speaking, a new great powerful being has been born, known as Nirvana, the Great Phoenix. It's involved a certain amount of heating on our beautiful planet, but we've adjusted mostly unharmed. Now, Nirvana, being the powerful being she is quite busy, and as such, I personally do not know much about her, but I will tell you what I do know in due time. However, more importantly is the fact that our world is divided into 6 main nations. I'll give you a quick overview before going into them in more specificity, but where to begin? Well, I suppose we should begin with the oldest of the nations, the Dragon Empire. A great monolithic empire led primarily by beautiful dragons who fly on the winds command lightning and fire, and all sorts of other powers. In the Dragon Empire, there are many organizations of note, including that of the Blaze Maidens, and in addition, the less savory sort. Then we have one of the nations that have changed the most, my personal home of the Dark States. A, for lack of a better term, feudal organization of many different, smaller, again lacking a better term, nations in a relative state of peace. One thing that is very important to note about the Dark States is nothing there is ever as it seems. You may see a mugger murder an innocent child in a back alley, but that is not what is actually happening. In truth, that child could be commanding the other being. Things are incredibly bizarre there, as they are influenced by the physical manifestations of the negative emotions of all of the denizens of Cray, including, and not limited to, the planet herself. We can get more into that little bit of detail later. In stark contrast to the Dark Zone is the beautiful and magnificent whale known as Lyrical Monasterio, a place I have personally been finding myself spending more and more time in, just due to the nature of how accepting they are of others. Most of the other nations do not seem to like the dark magic that binds me into this form. However, in Lyrical Monasterio, there are very welcoming of all sorts of individuals. There you'll find giants, vampires, ghosts, gorgons, demons, succubi, all sorts of wonderful individuals, all there gathered for one specific purpose: to bring forth joy. Moving on from one school to another, the beautiful lands of Stoicaia. The land form of Stoicaia is full of vibrant life, giant plants, amazing beasts, including the great Emperor himself. But again, we'll get more into that later. Stoicaia was named after a wonderful scholar who created a beautiful cube of knowledge. One of the artifacts I find myself trying to spend more and more time with. However, Stoicaia is about 60% water, and that water houses the darkest depths of Cray's Sea. There lies many forbidden creatures, including one I only know by the name of the Alchemage. Supposedly, he is currently in a less than ideal state, but I know very little of him. Moving right along, another nation of duality is the Keta Sanctuary. The beautiful city riding on the clouds, flying through the air with the amazing power of the Keta Drive, a once powerful artifact whose abilities have since fallen to the unknown. On the Flying City, you'll find a great many organizations, such as Angel Feather, and the great sword himself, Bastion. However, Keta Sanctuary is not limited to this beautiful city on the clouds. Below the city are those who lie forgotten. However, those who lie forgotten do not wish to remain forgotten for long. But now we go from the forgotten to those who never forget. Those of Brantgate. Brantgate is a land of abundant technology and wondrous exploration. In fact, they are the only nation that fully remembers the epithet of Messiah that I mentioned earlier. Brantgate is home to all sorts of organizations in and of itself, such as the company Blitz, as well as the massive police force. I'm not overly familiar with the ritual, but you do appear to be fading. As such, I believe that is all the time we have for this session. Perhaps you'll join me next time as we go into more detail regarding one of the nations. Should you have a request, I'm sure there's some way you can communicate that to me. But besides that, thank you for joining me on my little tirade, and hopefully you learned something.